This video will supplement the Support Services Part 2 learning module, specifically on student-athlete development. The NCAA has asked each institution to develop and implement what initially was called life skills programming for student-athletes. Life skills programming has evolved into different terms. Currently, student-athlete development is the main terminology being used to capture this entity in an athletic department. We're seeing a growing trend where athletic departments are actually devoting resources to have a full-time staff member that is devoted to creating and implementing programs that revolve around student-athlete development. And student-athlete development programs are in place for a myriad of reasons, some of the most important, of course, being that it's important to help the student-athlete develop holistically as an individual beyond just their athletic identity. It's a responsibility of that institution to ensure that they are adequately prepared and ready to go out into the world and be productive citizens away from being a student-athlete. And so their career development is especially important, especially during a time where student-athletes are not able to partake in some of the career activities or experiences that their non-student athlete peers are able to partake in simply because of the time demands. It's also important that this programming teaches different behaviors, strategies, techniques that can help student athletes be more successful academically or athletically. So for example, time management, and if a student athlete is better able to manage themselves, their stress, their priorities, then we might see differences in their performance both on the field and in the classroom. There is a tremendous amount of approaches that can be taken in terms of what types of program are offered and how they're implemented. And these are some of the things that are actually covered within the PowerPoint. So I want to spend the time on talking about the intentionality of these programs and how we know if they're effective, and some of the different approaches from athletic departments nationwide in terms of how they demonstrate the effectiveness and the worth and value of the student-athlete development programs. One of the gold standards in the field is a multi-layered approach. For example, the first step would be implementing a needs assessment that would go out to your athletic department, where academic advisors, academic support staff, athletic support staff, athletic administrators, your athletic director, and of course, coaches and student athletes weigh in on what their needs are. An athletic administrator can have an idea of what they think the student athlete needs are, but it's really important to hear from the student athletes in terms of areas in which they're struggling or may need additional help and resources. Once these needs assessment results return, they can be evaluated, and you can start by determining actual program outcomes. So this is what we would like our student-athlete development program to achieve. One idea of a program outcome might be academic success. We want to promote academic success. And so from there, you would develop actual workshops, seminars, sessions that align with that goal of academic success. And going back to the time management example, that would be a great content area that would fulfill that goal of making sure our student athletes are successful academically. Once you actually have the sessions built, you can then assess what's happening during that session. So that's another layer of evaluation. By, for example, implementing a pre-assessment where student athletes are reporting on, for example, their current time management system, or what types of tools or programs they use to stay organized, or how they would rate their own time management system. And then you would implement these different ideas, techniques, and philosophies that student athletes can learn and take in during the session. And it's important that those are very interactive in nature and engaging, where student athletes are involved, and it's more experiential. And then you have your post-assessment, where you're assessing the attitudes and beliefs of student athletes, how they what they got out of the program, or what they think they'd use moving forward. And while that information is great, there's still something missing. And what's missing is what types of behaviors are student athletes actually engaging in following your session, following your student athlete development program. So another layer that would be even better would be to actually test those students a week later, or give them that post-evaluation or an additional post-evaluation a week later, asking them what types of time management strategies they have implemented during the last week. And so there you're actually capturing behaviors based on your session versus just the beliefs and ideas of what student athletes think that they learned during your session. Another approach is to actually use empirically based interventions. So for example, the personal growth initiative theory has a well-cited intervention where you have a session where you teach individuals, and in our case student athletes, about stepping out of their comfort zone and overcoming fears. And then a week later, you would actually ask and assess how the student athletes have branched out of their comfort zone and what type of activities they've engaged in that have made them feel uncomfortable, to actually determine how effective that session on branching out and being out of your comfort zone was. Another way to measure the effectiveness is through quantitative metrics, such as how many student athletes in your program have a resume, how many of them are obtaining job experience or shadowing professionals in a field they're interested in, or working summer internships. How many of your student athletes are actually securing positions once they've graduated from your institution, or how many of them have matriculated into graduate school. These are important things to capture and measure so that you can report on some of the ways in which your career development programming might be promoting some of these successful benchmarks. Another type of quantitative metric that you can impose is just looking at engagement and how many student athletes are actually attending your sessions, which teams are attending your sessions, and maybe measuring engagement over time and looking at different trends and differences in what groups are actually engaging in your student athlete development programming. All of this is tremendously important because, as we know, the nature of collegiate athletics, student athletes have incredible time demands. Their time is very valuable, and so when student athlete development administrators create, orchestrate, and implement this programming, it's important to be able to demonstrate its value and its worth. And this is definitely a challenge, but I've listed some of the ways in which athletic administrators can think about assessing their programs in order to create buy-in and engagement and financial support, emotional support, just the backing of your athletic department, which is a critical component, an integral component of the success of that program. All in all, these are different ways in which student athlete development programming can be measured, and as the field continues to evolve and grow, I'm sure there will be additional ways to measure the effectiveness and capture the effectiveness of this programming for student athletes.